on sports!
All right there, fellas. You know, I'm choosing to watch baseball here tonight instead of hockey on our newest episode because, gosh darn it, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm here. Okay, we went with Blacksmith Names tonight. I know you're excited, Fletch.
I'm curious as hell myself.
Okay. We got a random selection of Blacksmith Names here. There's Gary, the Smelt Belt. Kim. Chris, Smelts of Roses Fletcher. And I'm Dave, Pound World Finoli.
It's a good life, this blacksmithing.
I'm telling you. Hey,
Who knew there were Blacksmith Names?
I'm telling you, I learn something new every day.
Oh, God. I'll tell you, I went to the game. The guy taking selfies did not choose to go. Thinking he got abused as he went through. Nobody was on the phone. Nobody was, trying to cross swords. But one gentleman who decided to wear elastic pair of shorts decided to pull him down.
Oh, good.
When he went. Again, another first in stadium bathroom etiquette.
It's a bacchanal out there.
Oh. Well, the question, is that a foul?
I think it's a foul.
I've never come across it to know if that was a foul or not.
I think you have to go to the committee for that one. But, you also don't want to be
here with our committee. What did you say?
You don't want to be the man behind him either.
No.
I was next to him.
Oh,
but, you don't want to be behind him, and there were several that don't. My other question is why it always happens this way. You have lines at each corner of the bathroom, but in the middle, nobody's there.
Nobody goes.
Is there like a invisible wall that I seem to be able to pass through?
And this is at Heinz, I presume.
Heinz. That's really most football places you go, but Heinz in particular.
Well, what you should have done, Dave, after the guy was finished, is just slapped him on the ass and said, "Good job, good hustle."
Would that have been a foul on me?
That would cure that.
It would have been a foul, but you probably would have gotten a standing ovation, too.
I might have. But nonetheless.
I can't second that. Here in Philadelphia, there some of these, whatever you want to call them, are whipping it out as soon as they get out of the public eye. And if there's an open one, they'll bowl you over for it. Hockey or football.
So it's more a physical crowd.
It's a free-for-all like everything else in Philadelphia.
You got to bow up on that one, Gary. You got to be tossing them out there.
Somebody comes too close to me, they're going down. I still know how to box.
Even out? Are they going down even out, Gary?
It depends on how I cracked them, but no, I mean, it's a free-for-all here. If there's an open one, there'll be like four guys crash into each other getting to it.
Wow.
So they got to get back and get another beer.
Oh, okay. All right, that I've never heard of.
Yeah, so a little different here.
More of a physical game.
Definitely. Hockey.
We're more finesse. We're more finesse in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. A little more civility. Just
a kinder, gentler town when it comes to urinals.
Just a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
We're Catholic school graduates.
What are you drinking tonight?
I'm still drinking the homebrew, man.
My usual water.
All right. You got water? You always have some nice ice cubes, Gary.
Only healthy for me, like I told our guest last week. So
let me see your ice cubes.
Yeah, it's water.
He's a cube man.
Well, you usually have bigger ice cubes in there, Gary.
Had a tough day, Dave. I give you.
The ice cubes are a little flaccid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want them watering anything down today.
Well, I'm enjoying the playoffs, even though they're not a lot of likable teams.
True.
And it reminded me of just, what kind of drew me to the game. And we're going to talk a little about our favorite postseason moments. My first one that I remember, I don't know if it's a favorite, But one of the first things I remember as a baseball fan is the '69 series, and I thought Tommy Agee, Art Shamsky, I thought they were all Hall of Fame talents because Lord knows they were playing like it, not knowing what a Hall of Fame talent was at 8 years old. But that was my first memory. But I got to tell you, the Carlton Fisk home run, and I killed Donnie Moore. Did you ever know that?
I know it now.
Well,
yeah, that's Dave Henderson, right?
In 1986, I'm at my in-laws' house having a birthday dinner, and I was getting they were behind at the time, the Barrett Red Sox, and I was getting the cake, and they asked me to make a birthday wish. My birthday wish was that Henderson hits the home run, and weirdly enough, he did. So, had I not wished upon that, I'm sure the Angels win the game in the series.
Right.
Right. But nonetheless, I mean, what a memorable time he had. Probably my favorite, and the thing that really put me over the line as far as baseball versus football was at Game 6 in 1975. One of the great games, still one of the most exciting games I think I've ever seen. And the Bernie Carbo homer was incredible, but over Dad was always good when you were over the bedtime when it came to sports. Mom would get a little pissy about us going to bed, but remember Dad kind of took me up to my Aunt Louise, who lived up as he was always wanting to do when he knew there was a sporting event that might conflict with bedtime. So Mom wasn't there to pull us down. And just what a magnificent game. I mean, the Fisk home run, the body English on him going down, wonderfully called game.
You know the story behind that body English thing, don't you, and how we saw that?
Please.
So the cameraman in the outfield wasn't even supposed to be on that shot, but as he was working out there, a rat went right by his feet, and it freaked him out, and he left the camera in that position.
No.
That's how they caught that iconic shot.
No shit.
Oh, my God.
I never knew that story.
What just a lucky friggin' moment for NBC.
And for the rat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure the rat survived.
Well, Fenway and Yankee Stadium, there were plenty of rats. Seriously, both parks were so damn old. There was plenty of them, boy. Like Yankee Stadium, they were size of dogs. So,
well, I never got to the old Yankee Stadium, but the new one was void of rats, as I saw.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But Fenway,
the Hotel Edison, which we used to stay in when I'd go there for business because I got a per diem, and I wanted to save the money for the drinking and festivities in town.
yeah,
And Cosby, which is the greatest sporting goods place. Hopefully, it's still there at the Garden. One of the greatest sporting goods places I've ever had the pleasure of going.
mm-hmm.
But we had plenty of rats and cockroaches there. But it was worth it to save the money. I don't know if I was bit. I don't know if I developed some sort of disease that made the nose grow.
But you're fighting through it still. So I mean, Fenway was so old too. I think I did see one when I've been up there about 2 or 3 times. So old, just like the old Yankee Stadium. I'm not surprised, but Fletch, I never knew that. I never knew that story at all.
Well, that's a classic, and I think that's one of the great reasons why it was such a memorable moment. A team that hadn't won since 1918. You get the classic old park at the time. I mean, it was everything that was romantic about baseball, so to speak, coming in one. And what doesn't get talked about was what an exciting game Game 7 actually was.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In the mix.
Yeah, everybody thinks the series ended on that homer, but it.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. I mean, Fletch, I'm gonna leave a lot of pirate things for you, but I will mention probably the most exciting game I was ever at in the postseason was Game 3 of the 1979 series. And it was along the lines of what made Game 6 of the Penguins' first Stanley Cup in 1991 exciting. It was a blowout. You had time to take it in. Remember, the Cincinnati Reds were the albatross on the Pirates' neck in the 1970s.
Right.
And 72, just a nasty loss. 70 was dominated. 75, you get John Candelaria pitching the game of a lifetime and you still lose.
Yep.
So certainly 79, you just had – I thought the Pirates were more talented, but, was that monkey on the back still going to be there? And it almost was. I mean, it took 2 extra inning home runs in Game 1 and 2 really to put the Pirates in that position. But when they took the albatross off, it was just a sight to behold. The place was going nuts. That season where you didn't expect them to win a championship, Pete Rose was signed by the 3-time NL East consecutive champion Phillies, and you thought they were going to win again. But it was a magnificent season, and that was one of those things. Because if my team is playing in a game where, it's great to say Bill Mazeroski hit the game-winning homer, I love the route. I love to sit back. I love to enjoy what took you to get you to this moment. And that's what I felt was so exciting for me there. Those were some of mine. Fletch, I know plenty of Pirate moments for you that I left you there.
Well, it's funny. The thing I remember about that game, Dave, is Bert Blyleven's curveball to end it and just how nasty that thing was.
Absolutely.
Sure, the Pirates, the 71 World Series, I was at Game 3, and if you watch that entire series, from Game 2 on, it was just a magnificent World Series, one of the better played, tight games, very exciting. I just kind of went and I thought about some other ones. I also had the Carlton Fisk game and also the Game 7 on my list. I was actually at another one of those routes, Dave. I was at the 1988 NLCS with the Dodgers and with the Mets, and I was there with my friends who were all, lifetime LA fans. So it was fun sitting there with them. And, by about the 6th inning, the discussion came, boys, are we taking the field when this game's over? And, we went back and forth on that one. Ended up not doing it, which I kind of regret now. Also, I think that this is a strange one. One of my favorite teams besides the Pirates growing up was the A's. And I remember Game 2 of the ALCS with against the Tigers when Bert Campaneris fired his bat at Laren LeGros, the Tigers relief pitcher, which is really the only reason we even remember the name Laren LeGros is because he had a bat hurled at him. But
which ironically today is the 47th anniversary of that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hard to believe 47, but yeah. I guess it would be October. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. I also think about the 2001 World Series too. The game, how exciting those games were. And New York was coming off of everything that happened with 9/11. Yeah. They get their team in the World Series only to lose in the final inning of Game 7. It was just that was just sort of a crushing loss. I was never a huge Yankees fan, but I think half of the world was rooting for them to win in that World Series.
And
they didn't. Yeah.
That HBO series on it was or documentary on it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and that was before Rudy Giuliani became such a crackpot. So just fun to watch for that.
Yeah.
I also remember the Gibson walk-off homer. That again, I think that you could have made a case that he could have been the series MVP on just one at bat. It was just, and listening to Vin Scully call it was magnificent.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I worked for a company in LA in the 80s, and the owners were big baseball fans. They had incredible seats at Dodger Stadium, and we would all split up seats during the season. I was get the Pirates seats, but I remember I think it was 85, the Ozzie Smith walk-off home run too, and just the look on Tim Novoselsky's face we were at a convention. We were watching it on the convention floor, and just I remember him looking at that and just walking away. But it was just such an iconic moment for a guy who was always thought of as a fairly light hitter.
Yeah.
There's just also something about walk-offs. You got the Aaron Boone walk-off. What was that, Game 7 in 2003?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think so.
Sorry, Dave. My bad. Oops. The Ortiz walk-off. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
And
what a just a brilliant moment in baseball history that night that begat the bloody sock, which another one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's funny how many Red Sox games are on these lists. When you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, since 2000 for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
They played a lot. They played a lot of heartbreaking games. I mean, they really did.
Well, that's why it was tough to always put the Cubs in with their category, because Cubs were never there, and
right.
The Red Sox just had their hearts ripped out one after another.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Reggie Jackson game. I mean, think about that: 3 pitches, 3 home runs, boom, gone. And then the Roy Halladay no-hitter. I mean, that guy just dominated the entire league that year. Didn't he throw a perfect game that season also? And then throws
against the Marlins, I think he did, yeah.
But to have the opportunity to see another in the postseason,
I never thought I'd see it again, just the way the game is now and the talent. But when Halladay did it, it was stunning.
Yeah.
It was
I know that I really miss having ESPN Classic when that was on, and because they would show a lot of those old games. So I actually got to see broadcasts of Bob Gibson in the '68 World Series in the 17 strikeout game, which is just phenomenal. I mean, my favorite part of that was, they put up on the scoreboard that he just broke the record for most strikeouts on a World Series game, and Tim McCarver, his catcher, is signaling him, look behind you, and he's like, just give me the goddamn ball, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, that is classic Gibson.
But here's one other thing about the postseason. One of two things usually happens. Usually your big star comes through in a pressure situation, or the opposite. It's the guy you've never heard of who gets the big hit. Your Bucky Dents. Oh, Dave, geez, I'm sorry again.
Jesus, man, you're killing me.
Yeah.
It's worse than Ken a couple weeks ago with his Indians blues voodoo.
Oh, come on. I wanted to see them get in, too. You know that.
And Gene Tennis in the 72 World Series, too. That was phenomenal to watch.
Yeah.
I love those A's teams. I really did. They had great pitching, great defense. Didn't hit for average, had power, had gap power. But, what a fun team to watch.
Great when the pressure was on. Great when the pressure was on, though. Pressure's on opposed to they were the best teams I still have seen. When you really needed to make the plays, they made them.
Yeah.
All the time, every year.
Great uniforms, too. Fabulous uniforms.
Totally.
Well, I'd like to say that Finley used the Herb Brooks, let me be the enemy that they can all combine with to go against. But I don't think he thought of himself as that.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
But he certainly was to me. I think that was, I think had he not paid them well in 1919, they may have thrown the 1972
They have similar characteristics.
Well, think about that team, too. I mean, you have Reggie Jackson getting hurt in the last game of Game 5 in the 72 playoffs, so he misses the entire World Series. So at that point, I think there's no way they were going to win.
Still won.
I was also still smarting from the Pirates losing, because I think the Pirates would have won that World Series.
I didn't in that and in '92. I didn't come into the World Series till very late because I was pissed. I didn't watch the first couple games. I'm a bitter man.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
If you like sports enough, you will become that.
You look at that Reds team, though. They went up against two juggernauts in the early part. I mean, Sunday they went up against the Orioles. That was the only World Series that Orioles team won.
Yeah.
And then that A's team was that was a tough series, back and forth.
7 games.
7 games.
Yep.
A's were there at the end.
Yep.
A's were there at the end. Now, I'd ask Gary what his favorite was, but he'd probably tell me of the David Justice home run in Game 6 of the 1995 World Series, the one for the Braves.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I had forgotten that he had done that against the Indians, but no, that's not. No, I'm going to show. I'm either stuck in the past or I need to pull my leisure suit out, because when you threw this out, I started writing down my memories, and they're all in the 70s. I mean, there's a few subsequent, but they're all in the 70s. You guys have touched on them all. I agree with you, Dave, about the '69 World Series. I remember watching it with my dad and my brother, and my dad telling me about the story of the Mets, how bad they were. That was the one that really, I think around that time you're starting to get big national coverage too for that day. I think they were NBC in those days. And I remember watching, I mean, I was only going on 8, but I remember watching that World Series. And yeah, the story of the Mets and some of the great plays they made and some crazy plays, the J.C. Martin play, it kind of intrigued me. But I think the next year is what really got me hooked. Growing up in Harrisburg, Baltimore is actually closer than Philadelphia.
Right.
So I got to see a lot of the Orioles on TV at that age, and I saw a ton of the Orioles when I was a kid. And I've talked about this, I think, on these shows. To me, still the 70s Orioles were the perfect baseball team. And I think that Brooks Robinson series in 1970, I do remember watching pretty much every pitch of that, even though they hadn't gone yet the night games. And just his play, he made 5 or 6 great plays. And I'll touch on something else, which ironically came later, which was the Nettles series against the Dodgers. But the plays that Robinson.
Before we get off there, do you think the 70 series is because I was asked by somebody, because I made the comparison to Maz, Brooks Robinson, and Ozzie Smith as the 3 players from our era that got them because of defense into the Hall of Fame. I always contended that that 70 series maybe made Robinson a quicker Hall of Famer than maybe he should have been.
Probably. I mean, I think he look at his offensive statistics. I mean, he was a pretty good clutch hitter. When I was a kid growing up, I remember. You didn't want to see him up there at a game on the line, but his offensive statistics and stuff were not anywhere near traditional.
Yeah, but the guy hitting 280 in that era wasn't bad. I mean, that was especially the third base. There weren't a lot of high average third basemen at that time.
No, and he had some sneaky power, and he was a good clutch hitter. I mean, he was a guy watching him a lot. You did not want him up there with the game on the line.
Yeah, the other thing I always remember about him is the short bill on the batting hat.
Yep.
Batting helmet.
Yep.
But, Gary, one other thing about the '69 World Series, I saw it on that ESPN Classic, and the thing that I was struck by, how many guys were wearing suits and ties in the crowd watching that game. It was incredible.
It's true.
Different era. Next year, I am going to wear a suit and tie. By the way,
I think we all should. I think we should all go to a game in the future. We should all do it.
Let's do it.
But I mean, that Robinson series, I'm 1 year older, started collecting the cards and stuff and reading the Baseball Digest and all that stuff. I became more intrigued by the game. Brother got me some books on the game's history and some great photograph stuff in it all winter long. And then the 70s, I remember watching the 70s, the season, a lot for a kid at that age. There was a lot going on in Harrisburg, and Orioles on TV, Phillies on TV here primarily. And just Robinson's play in that series was just, he was fantastic. And to watch that Orioles team, I love that Orioles team with the starting pitching and the defense and the power they had. I'm not sure why I wasn't an Orioles fan so much, but I mean, I was, and I still am looking back. But, the 71 series, I agree with what Chris said earlier. I mean, I'm getting now another year older, understand the game a little more, playing the game myself now, midget ball. That 71 series, I mean, I hadn't seen a lot of the Pirates other than when they played the Phillies on TV. We hadn't yet gotten.
Did you play with young midget ballers and young kids, or did you play with midgets?
I had some midget. We had some midgets on the team too, Dave. So
well, I didn't know if there was a league.
Probably myself at that age. I would group myself in that. But the 71 series, I remember. There was the first night game, and beyond that, my dad loved the Pirates. My dad spent time in Pittsburgh. He was in between jobs as a construction worker out there. Loved Pittsburgh. He grew up near Allentown, so loved Pittsburgh. Very similarity between the two places.
Yeah.
I love Clemente and the Pirate teams, Stargell, and I remember watching that series. And that was just the exuberance of Clemente was still what sticks out to me. I know that's always on the highlight films, but his base running, his fielding.
Yeah.
Stargell had a huge year that year. I saw the Pirates here in a doubleheader in Philly. Stargell, it was in the first half when Stargell was sizzling hot. He had like 35 homers by the All-Star break. Big crowds in Philly in those days, 50,000, which you never see anymore. Love 71, that postseason. Fletch touched on 72. I thought that 70 Reds team, I'm not sure they're as good as that powerhouse, Big Red Machine in the mid-70s, because Morgan was better than Helms. Geronimo was probably a better center fielder in those days than who even Tolan was, but pitching maybe a little bit better, at least the bullpen. But those Reds teams were great, and they didn't win either time. And that A's series, I'll never forget those tennis homers. Remember the bench? He thought he was going to be. He didn't realize they were going to intentionally walk him, and he swung it.
He strung, yeah.
He swung at the pitch. Remember that? Love that. Thought the 73 A's Mets series was fantastic. That Mets story, they weren't the 69 Mets, but that was a horrible NL East, but the Mets came back to win it, trailing at Labor Day. In that series, the A's were great. Jackson played in that series. He was phenomenal. So was Holtzman. I remember Holtzman hit a homer and a double in one of his starts or something.
Yep.
Great series. Great games in that series. 74 was a good series, although the A's dominated. Just there you realize how good the A's were, as Chris talked about. That Dodger team had a special year that year, beating the Pirates in the postseason. The A's just obliterated them. I remember Buckner's horrible base running, trailing, like we talked about in one of these earlier shows in Game 5. Clearly, you guys said enough about 75. That was the one to me, when you talk about baseball and television, that really boomed a period of baseball and television. And it caused a cable explosion. Shortly thereafter, I was getting the Mets and the Yankees, and, you're in heaven here, honestly, here in the East. I thought the Nettles series against the Dodgers, which I think was 78.
Yep.
They played each other a couple times, and the Yankees won. Both times, but that Nettles play reminded me so much of Robinson that series, and I hated that Yankee team, but you couldn't help but respect that. Guidry pitched a hell of a game in that series, the 78 series, and of course, and I love the 79 Pirates. They're probably, other than the 70 Orioles, the 79 Pirates are probably in here as my second, whether I'd gone to Pittsburgh or not. They're one of the reasons I probably went to school in Pittsburgh, candidly, at that time, where my priorities were. But, the Steelers were good and they had hockey out there. But that 79 whole Pirate year, I just loved. Just like I loved the 78 pennant race from August on. And maybe I say that about 78 because I was involved in there's a couple key games that happened. The Yankees rallied in mid-August, trailing 3-0 to score 5 runs and the sky opened up. And I think it was Denkinger or Brinkman called the game like in 15 minutes. Yankees just went crazy. And if they don't call that game and they suspend it, Yankees probably win it. There's no playoff. And I think about that 78 year. That wasn't necessarily a postseason, but for me, knowing the game better and understanding it then, the postseason started that year like August the 1st, and then just the ups and downs of that Red Sox-Yankees series. And the Orioles played a key part in it. Saw a lot of it live. All my memories, really, the biggest ones, go back to the 70s. I mean, there were some great ones subsequent. You guys touched on some. I thought the series poorly played in some ways and strangely managed, but the 16 and 17 series were fantastic. Cubs and Indians, Dodgers and Houston with the shifting tides, long games. I mean, they would be memories of mine, although those series weren't nearly as well played as the ones in the 70s.
No, I'll add one more, and then we're going to shoot off to our week in combat sports.
Okay.
The one that I just remember was a fun game to watch, Game 7 of the 91 series.
Yep.
The 1-0 game. Jack Morris became entrenched in my mind as a certain Hall of Famer at that point.
Now, who was it? The decoyed the runner was that? Oh God, was it Lonnie Smith who was
the runner? Was it Gagne, the shortstop?
Yeah,
Gagne?
I thought, wow, that was just brilliant.
Just one clutch play after another. It was an amazing game.
That was a great series. A lot of shifting tides in that series. That was a great series.
Every game was a classic.
Yeah, it was.
We had some shifting tides in the boxing world this week.
I thought there's two things that happened in combat sports this weekend that still make the sport great to me, and I think I'll be pretty quick with it. Gennady Golovkin's been one of the best fighters of this era. He's probably the most decorated amateur ever. I think he had something like 384 wins, 2 Olympic gold medals. I think he lost once or twice as an amateur. Now, those Russians and the people from East Bloc countries, because that was such a big thing, just like hockey was, they're machines. But to go 384 and 2, I don't care what your beating, and that's amazing. And he didn't come over here till late, but he's been a tremendous pro. Very exciting, big puncher, tremendous. But sadly, but amazingly, sadly, he looked a little shocked. He's 37 years old. Sergey Derevchenko, all the good fighters, 160 and up, seem to be coming now. Not from Mexico or America, but from East Europe. Derevchenko is a good fighter, and he gave him a rough time over the weekend. But Golovkin did what he had to do to get the decision. I think the sad part is this a symbol? Is this just a layoff? Is he slipping? But by the same token, he still got the win. It was a good night for boxing because both guys showed up in shape like a lot of the Eastern European fighters do. That would be a whole discussion under itself. There's about 7 or 8 of them now that are fantastic.
Well, you turned me on to him, and I love watching that fight.
Golovkin I've seen him live 3 or 4 times. He's a sensational fighter. He's good with the fans too. After the fight, he'll come out and talk with you. And he's not as big as he looks even on TV, but he's a sensational fighter. Tough road though. Hats off to Derevchenko. Excellent night for boxing. Hope Golovkin still has something left. Even if he doesn't, it may make for better fights, but what a stellar career it's been. And in the UFC continues to be a business machine that I ought to write a book about someday. Very smart in the marketing. It is controlled by, a group of people, as we know, but have a tremendous fighter named Robert Whittaker over in Australia. Very, very popular. A bull of a guy, bull neck, Tyson-like body. They're fighting at middleweight, which is 20 pounds bigger in UFC. This is 185, 190 pound men, so they're big men. Have a kid by the name of Israel Adesanya, very young, 24, 6'4", making 185 pounds. Tremendous fighter from New Zealand. They put these two in a soccer stadium in Melbourne, 58,000 tickets. What a tremendous event. Fight was not – Adesanya surprised people how easily he won, but he knocked Whittaker out in the second round. But just a tremendous event, 2 tremendous talents. UFC deserves credit for one thing. Even if you hate the sport, whatever you do, they make good fights and they put them in the right place to get a tremendous amount of attention and following. And it was a good night for the UFC from the standpoint of, no matter what country they seem to be going to, they put the right guys in. They put their better matchups in those. And I think they're continuing to build their fan base. So it was a good weekend for combat sports in period, I thought. So.
Quick question for you. Is there a league of UFC where there are like playoffs?
No, UFC is similar to boxing. I mean, there must be around the world, there must be 20 developmental organizations.
Because I asked you because there was something on AT&T Sportsnet, a playoff.
No, there is an MMA organization in the United States called the Professional Fighters League, and I've seen a lot of it. Me and a couple of my younger friends here, we went down to Atlantic City this summer a couple times. It's the same rules, but it's an organization where it's a concept. Now they have a ton of Eastern European fighters, and some guys either have been in the UFC or can't get there. Very good fighters themselves, and they put them in a playoff system. So they have a bunch of rounds. It's a tournament, and once you get to a certain point, then they do have a playoff, which is starting here in October. It's very interesting. They're not getting the top guys, but they're not at the bottom of the developmental organizations either. So it's called the Professional Fighters League.
Yeah.
$1 million for the winner, which in MMA is a lot of money. That is an awful lot of money in MMA. Even the top stars of UFC for a main event, they're not, other than this clown McGregor, they're not making millions of dollars. They're making, like even the stars make $600,000, $750,000. Now they fight more. Fights are 3 to 5 rounds, but you don't make $1 million in MMA until you're at a very, very high level. So for them to offer $1 million, you got to fight 4 or 5 times in a year, which is demanding. Right. But it's a hell of a prize. And a lot of these Eastern European fighters that can't speak English or whatever, they're coming over here and they're making that organization successful. So.
It seemed like an interesting thing. And I'll mention something I just got on Facebook on Saturday, November 2nd at the Prinscape Arena in Canonsburg. They're going to fight for the Steel City Heavyweight Championship.
Steel City Heavyweight Championship.
3-2 with 3 KOs. Michael the Pittsburgh Bull Anna is going up against
this is boxing?
The Butler Hot Dog Shop Kingpin Covert. Who was
boxing or MMA, Dave?
This is boxing. Now, when you get over 2 or 3 words for a nickname, you lost me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the Pittsburgh Bull here because I'm going to.
Where is it being held?
in Canonsburg at the Princescape Arena.
Because they do hold MMA cards there. Bluegrass MMA, not that I'm giving credence to that, but the guy has a good site. He covers MMA out your guys' way in Ohio. He's written about the there's some MMA that goes on there too. Is that down like at South Point somewhere, I guess?
Beyond it. Yeah, South Point Boulevard.
Yeah.
Probably is the South Point Arena. So there you go.
Check it out.
You let me know. We'll go.
Go to the Pittsburgh Heavyweight Championship and take some photos, Dave.
That's right.
Seeing all over.
That's right, my friend.
Sometimes in those cards, they actually do have amateur fights that are on the undercard. You might be able to get in one, Dave. So you really need to take a picture of that. Like sometimes it's kind of like an old bar in the Wild West.
That's wonder for me to actually get into it. So I got to tell you, it's been a long time since my fight in second grade.
Well, listen, I still have a scar on my arm, Dave, from you when we were sparring a little bit and your watch cut me.
Your watch.
He cut me, Mick. He cut me.
Yeah.
Watch on.
No, I didn't throw the towel in, though.
No, it isn't.
I think we should go back to Van Brahms again someday. That's what I think.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone, Gary.
We'll find one like it.
Drinking in an empty field.
We'll find one in Dravosburg or something.
All right, my friends. It's been a lovely talk. And watch a little more baseball. You guys have a good evening.
You too. Can't remember your nickname. You too.
All right.